Good morning, scholars. Happy Friday. Today we're going to continue to read. Yesterday, when we left off, we learned that Lena was delivering a message to the mayor. The gathering hall occupied one entire side of Harkin Square, which was the city's central plaza. The square was paved with stone. It had a few benches bolted to the ground here and there, as well as a couple of kiosks for notices. Wide steps led to the gathering hall, and fat columns framed its big door. The mayor's office was in the gathering hall. So were the offices of clerks who kept track of which buildings had broken windows, what street lamps needed repair, and the number of people in the city. There was the office of the timekeeper, who was in charge of the town clock, and there were offices for the guards who enforced laws of Ember now and then, putting pickpockets or people who got in fights into the prison room, a small one-story structure with a sloping roof that jutted out from one side of the building. Lena ran up the steps and through a door into a broad hallway. On the left was a desk, and at the desk sat a guard. Barton Snood, assistant guard, said a badge on his chest. He was a big man, with wide shoulders, brawny arms, and a thick neck. His head looked as if it didn't belong to his body. It was small and round, and topped with a fuzz of extremely short hair. His lower jaw jutted out and moved a little from side to side, as if he were chewing on something. When he saw Lena, his jaw stopped moving for a moment, and his lips curled upward in a small smile. "Good day," he said. "What business brings you here?" "I have a message for the mayor." Very good, very good." Barton Snood heaved himself to his feet. "Step this way." He led Lena down the corridor and opened a door marked reception room. "Wait here, please," he said. "The mayor is in his basement office on private business, but he will be up shortly." Lena went inside. "I'll notify the mayor," said Barton Snood. "Please have a seat. The mayor will be right with you. Or pretty soon." He left, closing the door behind him. A second later, the door opened again, and the guard's small fuzzy head reappeared. "What is the message?" he asked. "I have to give it to the mayor in person," said Lena. I wonder if the guard was testing Lena or if he was just being nosy. I wonder if he was making sure that she follows the rules of the messenger, that the messenger can only give the message to the person intended. Of course, said the guard. The door closed again. He doesn't seem very sure about things, Lena thought. Maybe he's new at his job. The reception room was shabby, but Lena could tell that it had once been impressive. The walls were dark red, with brownish patches where the paint was peeling away. In the right-hand wall was a closed door. An ugly brown carpet lay on the floor, and on it stood a large armchair covered in itchy-looking red material, and several smaller chairs. The small table held a teapot and some cups, and a larger table in the middle of the room displayed a copy of the Book of the City of Ember, lying open, as if someone was going to read it. Portraits from all the mayors of the city since the beginning of time hung on the walls, staring solemnly from behind pieces of old window glass. Lena sat in the big armchair and waited. No one came. She got up and wandered around the room. She bent over the Book of the City of Ember and read a few sentences. The City of Ember may not have luxuries, but the foresight of the builders who filled the storerooms at the beginning of time has ensured that they will always have enough, and enough is all a person of wisdom needs. She flipped a few pages. The gathering hall clock, she read, measures the hours of night and day. It must never be allowed to run down. Without it, how would we know when to go to work and when to go to school? How would the light director know when to turn the lights on and when to turn them off again? It is the job of the timekeeper to wind the clock every week and to place the date sign in Harkin Square every day. The timekeeper must perform these duties faithfully. Lena knew that not all timekeepers were as faithful as they should be. She'd heard of one some years ago who'd forgotten to change the date sign so that it might say, Wednesday, week 38, year 227, for several days in a row. There had even been timekeepers who forgot to wind the clocks so that it might stand at noon or at midnight for hours at a time, causing a very long day or a very long night. The result was that no one really knew anymore exactly what day of the week it was, or exactly how many years it had been since the building of the city. They called this year 241, but it might have been 245 or 239 or 250. As long as the clock's deep boom rang out every hour and the lights went on and off more or less regularly, it didn't seem to matter. Lena left the book and examined the pictures of the mayor. The seventh mayor, Pod Morthwart, was her great, she didn't know how many greats, grandfather. He looked quite dreary, Lena thought. His cheeks were long and hollow, his mouth turned down at the corners, and there was a lost look in his eyes. The picture she liked best was of the fourth mayor, Jane Larkett, who had a serene smile and fuzzy black hair. Still no one came. She heard no sounds from the hallway. Maybe they'd forgotten her. Lena went over to the closed door in the right-hand wall. She pulled it open and saw stairs going up. Maybe, while she waited, she'd just see where they went. She started upward. At the top of the first flight was a closed door. Carefully, she opened it. She saw another hallway and more closed doors. She shut the door and kept going. Her footsteps sounded loud on the wood, and she was afraid someone would hear her and come to scold her. No doubt, she was not supposed to be here. But no one came, and she climbed on, passing another closed door. The gathering hall was the only building in Ember with 3 stories. She had always wanted to stand on its roof and look out at the city. Maybe from there it would be possible to see beyond the city, into the unknown regions. If the bright city of her drawings really did exist, it would be out there somewhere. At the top of the stairs, she came to a door marked roof and pushed it open. Chilly air brushed against her skin. She was outside. Ahead of her was a flat gravel surface, and about 10 paces away, she could see the high wall of the clock tower. She went to the edge of the roof. From there, she could see the whole of Ember. Directly below was Harkin Square, where people were moving this way and that, all of them appearing, from this top-down view, more round than tall. Beyond Harkin Square, the lighted windows of the buildings made checkered lines, yellow and black, row after row in all directions. She tried to see farther, across the unknown regions, but she couldn't. At the edges of the city, the lights were so far away it made kind of a haze. She could see nothing beyond them but blackness. She heard a shout from the square below. "Look!" came a small but piercing voice. "Someone on the roof!" She saw a few people stop and look up. "Who is it? What's she doing up there?" someone cried. More people gathered until a crowd was standing on the steps of the gathering hall. "They see me," Lena thought, and it made her laugh. She waved at the crowd and did a few steps from the Bugfoot Scurry dance, which she'd learned on Clothing Square Dance Day, and they laughed and shouted some more. Then the door behind her burst open, and a huge guard with bushy black beard was suddenly running towards her. "Halt!" he shouted, though she wasn't going anywhere. He grabbed her by the arm. "What are you doing here?" "I was just curious," said Lena, in her most innocent voice. "I wanted to see the city from the roof." She read the guard's name badge. It said, "Reg Stabmark, Chief Guard." "Curiosity leads to trouble," said Reg Stabmark. He peered down at the crowd. "You have caused commotion." He pulled her towards the door and hustled her down all 3 flights of stairs. When they came out into the waiting room, Barton Snowd was standing there, looking flustered, his jaw twitching from side to side. Next to him was the mayor. "A child causing trouble, Mayor Cole," said the chief guard. The mayor glared at her. I recall your face from assignment day. Shame, disgracing yourself in your new job. I didn't mean to cause any trouble, said Lena. I was looking for you so I could deliver a message. Shall we put her in the prison room for a day or two? Asked the chief guard. The mayor frowned. He pondered a moment. What's in the message? He said. He bent down so Lena could speak into his ear. She noticed that he smelled a little like overcooked turnips. Delivery at 8, Lena whispered, from Looper. The mayor smiled, a tight little smile. He turned to the guard. Just a child's antics, he said. We will let it go this time. From now on, he said to Lena, behave yourself. Yes, Mayor, said Lena. And you, said the mayor, turning to the assistant guard and shaking a thick finger at him, watch visitors. Much more carefully. Barton Snow blinked and nodded. Lena ran for the door. Outside, a small crowd was standing by the steps. A few of them cheered as Lena came out. Others frowned at her and muttered words like mischief and silliness and show-off. Lena felt embarrassed suddenly. She hadn't meant to show off. She'd hurried past, out into Otterville Street, and started to run. She didn't see June, who was among those watching her. He had been on his way home from his first day in the pipeworks when he'd come across the cluster of people gazing up at the roof of the gathering hall and laughing. He was tired and chilly. The bottom of his pants legs were wet, and mud clung to his shoes and smeared his hands. When he raised his eyes, he saw a small figure next to the clock tower. He realized right away that this was Lena. He saw her raise her arm and wave and hop about, and for a second, he wondered what it would be like up there, looking out over the whole city, laughing and waving. When Lena came down, he wanted to speak to her, but he knew he was filthy looking, and that she would ask him questions he didn't want to answer. So he turned away, walking fast. He headed home. So this is where we're going to end for the day. I want you to take a moment and jot down some things that you think are important for today.